What's up guys, Daily Driven FP6 here, and in today's video I'm going to be overviewing my two cars, my 2015 Civic Si and my 1998 Honda Civic DX. Let's get into it. So this is the car that I daily drive. It is my 2015 Honda Civic Si in the sedan configuration. I've owned this car since May, and I've done quite a few modifications on it to improve the driving experience. We're going to start off in the cabin. First off, I've done an Acuity short shifter with likewise shift knob. That has improved the shifting experience dramatically, inspiring more confidence when driving. Can't quite see it, but up under here, I've got an Acuity pedal spacer in position C. That positions the gas pedal closer to the brake pedal and closer to the driver, making it easier to heel toe downshift and just feels like a more natural driving position. And I've upgraded to SRP Racing pedals, smaller company that makes aluminum pedals with many different finishes and different styles, so you can pick what you want. That little flashing box is my Honda Flash Pro. That pretty much does it for the interior modifications. And next we'll move on to under the engine bay. So this first modification is going to stand out right when you open the hood. Amazon hood struts. They're not overly fancy, and I've put a couple decals on them just to spice them up a little bit, but they work. They were 30 bucks and they just work. They're really solid and they make this car feel a little bit more luxury. So there's a few other modifications that live under the hood of this vehicle, like my Takeda Momentum series intake, wrapped in gold heat reflective tape to lower intake temps. You won't be able to see them, but down there are Acuity shifter bushings, just to improve the shifting feel, as well as Hybrid Racing D10 springs, also to improve notchiness and shifting feel. Other than those few modifications, this engine is completely stock, and that is because it is a very great engine right out of the box. One other modification I forgot to mention on the interior is my 2016 Honda CR-V head unit, which has the CarPlay update that was released in beta. So the most obvious modification I've done to this car is my Enkei RPF1s wrapped in Continental DWS06 Plus tires. Fantastic wheel and tire setup, especially for a daily driver. The wheels are 13 pounds lighter than the stock SI blades, and they also look much nicer too, in my opinion. Downsizing from a 18-inch wheel to a 17-inch wheel drastically improves the handling characteristics. Please forgive the car being in such a filthy state, but the modification back here we're looking at is the full race catback exhaust. This is an incredible catback exhaust system. It's very easy to bolt up, works very well, and is very high quality. The welds are fantastic, and generally is a great sound profile for the K24 engine. So that pretty much does it for the FP6. I've got the basics like intake, exhaust, and a tune, as well as the shifting modifications, CarPlay, all that good stuff. Now we'll move on to the 1998 Honda Civic DX. This car was my daily driver for about 4 years, and I've got quite a few modifications done to it. It's unfortunately sat for a while, but that's just because I have a daily driver now, and this car has kind of been on the back burner, and I've got a little surprise to show you guys later. So powering this thing is the D16 Y7 non-VTEC motor, and I've got a lot done to it. Right off the bat, you're going to notice the DC Sports strut bar. Incredible modification for how kind of sloppy feeling this chassis is from the factory. I've got Tein coilovers set to the max stiffness right now, just because this car is not meant for comfort. Probably the most expensive mod besides the coilovers is my DigiDizzy, which is one guy that manufactures these things and sells them to people with, I believe it's B, D, H, and F-Series engines. I want to say this works for all 4 of those. I'll put a note here on screen if that's incorrect. But it is a coil-on-plug conversion kit, eliminating the mechanical distributor, and ignition is so much better now. The car idles smoother, it runs better, it has a smidge more power, I believe, but that could just be butt dyno errors. I've got a 2-row aluminum radiator from Yonaka, an InGen short ram intake, and Morimoto custom retrofit headlights. with a little halo around, which I need to wire up actually. One of the most obvious modifications under the hood is the DC Sports ceramic 4-2-1 header, which has been an absolutely amazing modification. Definitely improves the exhaust note, makes it a little throatier and deeper, and definitely adds a little bit of power. One of these other modifications that is not talked about super often is the inclusion of the S2000 clutch master cylinder, spacer, and braided clutch line. That's a piece sold by MPC Motorsports, which I have a few pieces of in the rear of this vehicle as well. As for the exterior of this vehicle, I've got a Cybon carbon hood, which actually I got used and is not in the greatest shape. I need to refinish that and re-glue this with resin. I've got an Amazon front lip, which just bolts to the back of the bumper. Pretty self-explanatory. I've got Koenig decagram wheels in the 15 by 7.5 inch configuration with 205 wide tires on there. They're a little old. They could probably use replacing at some point, but I don't daily drive this vehicle, so it's not of huge concern to me. Coming into the cabin of this vehicle, I've got gauge pods for oil pressure, oil temperature, and water temperature. I've also got the K-Tune B and D series shifter topped with the likewise Ghost shift knob. It's been a pretty fantastic shifting setup, very notchy, and for a B and D series, you can't really beat it other than maybe the Hybrid Racing, but it's very close between those two. Other than that, this car is completely stripped out. You can see the rear DC Sports strut brace, and not too much else in the interior. I need to clean it up. This car has 334,000 miles, and I've owned it since it had 270, so I've put almost 65,000 miles onto this car by myself since 2021. Coming around to the back of the vehicle, I've got a Yonaka catback exhaust. Very similar to the full race, just a little bit cheaper. And up under here you'll see my MPC Motorsport rear subframe brace and tie bar, as well as rear lower control arms. This has been a wonderful modification for improving the stiffness and honestly the appearance of the rear of my vehicle. So generally there's a lot more done to this car, but that's just because I've owned it a lot longer and parts are way, way cheaper for this car than the K-Series. So this is my main project for the EK. I am rebuilding a D16 Y7 to swap into it, stock rebuild, just with a few upgraded parts like the head gasket, as well as the oil pump. I have a Bad Guys Worldwide oil pump on there to get a little bit extra oil pressure and better flow. It's ported and got improved pump gears in there, hardened steel. So that will get swapped in hopefully here next spring of 2026. So I'll wrap this back up. So that pretty much wraps everything up. I've gone over pretty much all the modifications I've done to my 2015 Civic Si, as well as my 1998 Civic DX out there. Both of these cars are absolutely wonderful, and I plan on doing a lot with them in the future. So stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.